Alright, we have to start because we have a very long day and very tight schedule, as always. Tomorrow we have a little bit more slack. But to start off the Nordic Roaster Forum this year, we have invited Ida Steen from Coffee Mind. Ida is kind of the nicest and happiest scientist I've ever met. She works with the Morten Show at Coffee Mind and is a sensory scientist. So without further ado, Ida.
Thank you very much. I hope you all had a good cup of coffee and are ready for some sensory evaluation. We're going to do a sensory evaluation all together. So it's actually perfect that we start with this in the morning because the idea is that your palates should be as clean as possible. So yeah, drink some water now and be ready for a sensory evaluation in 15 minutes or something. So as Tim said, I'm Ida and I'm working for Coffee Mind together with Morten Winshaw and Torben Berner. As you know, Morten is the owner of Coffee Mind and he is in charge of everything that has to do with roasting. And then we have Torben, who is our green coffee specialist. And in general, Coffee Mind is doing a lot of teaching. We're doing consultancy, and then we're doing research. And today, we would actually like to do some research together with you. We are going to use you as our sensory panel. So I hope that you're all up for that. But before I start, I would actually like to know how many of you were here 2 years ago? Great. Because actually 2 years ago, we did something similar. And for those of you that were here, you might remember that it was a little bit chaotic. And we didn't get the best results. But it's 2 years ago, so today we would like to try again. We believe that we can do it much better. And we have made they are preparing a more clean setup now, so let's go for it. So yes, the idea is that you're going to be working together as a sensory panel. But before we do that, I will give you a quick introduction to what is sensory methodology. We will do together a very short calibration session, and then we are going to go into the other room and perform a descriptive sensory analysis of 10 coffee samples. And then finally, tomorrow, Morten will present the results for you. So it's going to be really, really exciting to see what we can do together as a group. So first of all, sensory methodology. Overall, you can say that you can divide it into these 3 categories. We have the discriminative test, descriptive test, and affective test. The discriminative test is those that we use if we have 2 cups of coffee and we just want to know whether they are different or not. Then we can set up a triangle test or a dual test or something similar. Then we have the descriptive tests. This is where we want to look a little bit deeper into why these 2 coffees are different. So we want to describe the difference. And then finally, we have affective tests. This is if we want to know, does this difference that we found, does it have any meaning for the consumers? And what you should notice is that these 2 first tests, the idea is that they are completely objective. The only subjective methods in the sensory science world would be the affective test. And this is where we need consumers. Yes, so to give you a little bit better idea of what this is all about, I would like to show you some pictures of a setting at a university. So this is a picture from our training room at the Copenhagen University. So if we want to evaluate some coffee samples, what we do is that we gather 10 people, our sensory panelists. They go into this room and they train for a whole week on just these coffee samples. And what we do is that we prepare a tray of references. So the panelists decide, how does this coffee taste? If it tastes like hazelnut and chocolate, I will go out and I will find the specific types of hazelnuts, the specific chocolate that the panelists can find in these coffee samples. And then we train until we all agree and we are calibrated on how these coffee tastes. Yes, and then when we are done with this session, each panelist will be seated in a sensory booth like this. You can see that this is a very standardized setting. We have the white walls. There's a small door here, so the laborant will come from the other side and hand in just 1 cup of coffee, and the person will have to evaluate just that 1 coffee at a time. And the cool thing is that the temperature is controlled and even the air pressure is higher in here, meaning that no orders can enter the room but only go out of the room. It's like extremely controlled. And of course, this is not possible for us, but we'll still like to be inspired by this type of setting. But to give you a little bit more concrete example, I would like to show you a research project that we did, I think last year, together with Best Water Technology. What we did is that we investigated how their water filters could influence the flavor of a cup of coffee. So we had the Copenhagen tap water. You should know that this is very hard, not that nice water, to be honest. Then we had the reverse osmosis and we had ion exchange. And we all brewed that in a Kenyan coffee. So that meant that we prepared 3 replicates of each sample. Then we rolladized, we randomized the serving order completely, and then we gave each sample a 3-digit number, and we served it to 10 panelists in the individual randomized order. And we are doing this to avoid carryover effect, or to like kind of lean out the carryover effect. Because this number 1 would have this serving order, but for example number 4 would have a completely different serving order. And in that way, we are kind of minimizing all bias. And then we asked them to evaluate the 10 descriptors they decided on a line scale going from 0 to 15. And here to show you the results very quickly, what we found out was that the reverse osmosis really influenced the flavor of the coffee. As you can see, the Kenyan coffee got much more intense, more fruity and more acidic compared to the 2 other water types. And the fascinating thing is that we get these p-values on. That's because we're doing a setup like we do. We're able to do some statistics. And that tells us that we can really trust these results. If you're not used to p-values, you can say that this actually just means that there are 99.99% chance that we can trust the result that we found. Yeah? And another fascinating thing that we get out of a setup like this is that I can go in and I can look to how each panel member performed. So this is an example of assessor number 3, who tasted the Kenyan coffee brewed on reverse osmosis. And these 3 yellow dots are the 3 replicates this assessor tasted the coffee. So what I can see is that this assessor were very consistent in, for example, chocolate and nutty, but had some problems with fruity and floral. So from this plot, I would know that I need to train this assessor a bit more in these descriptors. Maybe it's even more clear when you see this plot. This is a plot of an assessor that performed very well. You can see the 3 replicates are scored some places exactly the same all 3 times this assessor got the coffee. So that's just a very helpful tool for me as a panel leader. Another interesting plot that I get out is agreement within the panel. This is called a Tucker plot, and here I can see all my 10 assessors. And the closer they group, it means the more they agree. So you can see they agree in intensity, body, sweet, acidic. But for example, bitter, they are a bit more spread. So here I would know that I would need to calibrate my whole panel. And these plots I will of course also get from all of you guys. So I'm really looking forward to see how much we will agree as a group, or if it's even possible to calibrate like 60 people at a time. We hope so. So yeah, I hope you got a picture of how different this is from the way we are usually evaluating coffee in the coffee business. The main difference I noticed, especially when I started in the coffee business, was the different way of using terms or descriptors. Here we have the SAA cupping form. What this is doing is that it's both rating quality and intensity. And if you remember from the sensory method slide I showed you, this is completely conflicting with what I was taught at the university, because here we are actually mixing subjective and objective terms. You can see we have all these descriptors where we are going to rate quality, and then we have 2 descriptors where we are rating intensity. But to notice that it's actually only the qualitative terms that go into the total score. So in my opinion, this would be a bit of a subjective method. So if we look a little bit more into the descriptors, we can say that these descriptors that are completely objective are those where you can go out and prepare a reference for. So examples would be acidic, sweet, blueberry, jasmine, or hazelnut. Here you can go out and you can actually find the ingredients, and it's very easy to calibrate the panel on these. Then we have these a bit more abstract descriptors, as for example, complex, harmonic, balanced. You can imagine that it's not as easy just to go out and prepare these. And then finally, we have the completely hedonic terms. Here, if you ask about liking, the descriptors will be very self-defined, like what is your own reference for how much you like a specific coffee. And yeah, as you know, the new sensory lexicon is actually using these very descriptive descriptors or objects. So that I really like, that we're actually starting to look into this direction also in the coffee business. And then we have the SVA coming from somewhere in the middle. And again, what we would like to do in CoffeeMind is to try to combine these two worlds of thoughts. And that's again what we will do today together with you. So we decided already for the descriptors that we are going to use today. We have tasted the coffees and made a decision. So first of all, what you're going to evaluate the coffees on are body. Here we mean the viscosity of the coffee, like the mouthfeel, like how much does it weigh when you have the coffee on your thumb. And the best way to evaluate that is to take like a sip of the coffee and kind of roll your thumb through it, feel how thick is it. Then we have the three basic tastes: acidity, sweetness, and bitterness. We have baked. This would be like roasted bread, maybe roasted rye bread, everything you can put into like the baked, roasted bread category you should evaluate here. And then we have fruity, and that's just all kinds of fruits, anything that comes to your mind rated in this category. Then we have a little bit more subjective. We have clean or clearance. We would like you to rate this also on a scale, so from not clean at all and then to like cleaner and cleaner. And we have balance, also a little bit subjective. And finally, aftertaste. And the aftertaste you will have to evaluate after you have swallowed or spitten out the coffee. Yeah, and all these descriptors you're going to evaluate on a 15-point scale, going from 1 to 15. 1 is not at all, and 15 is a lot. And for you to know how to use this scale, we have prepared 2 cups of coffee for you. So we are going to do a small calibration session now. You're very welcome to serve the coffees. There are 2 samples. You should have 1 of each. And you can see them here, 905 and 341. And the idea with these 2 samples is that you get a picture of the scale. So these 2 coffees will be the extremes on the scale. So for example, if you, let's say you have a very light roasted Kenyan coffee in your mind and you're rating acidity, then you might put these 2 coffees very low on the scale. But this, I want you to forget. Forget all about the most acidic coffees you've ever tasted. Have only these coffees in your mind as references. So that if you put them, I would like you to put them, the one that's most acidic of these 2, you should put it high on the scale. And the one that's least acidic should go low on the scale. So this is the reason why you get these coffees. And the same with all the other descriptors. Yeah? Do you have any questions for all this? Does it make sense?
I can see from the cups here that one is not and one is not.
Yes, but you should have the... Oh yeah, you can see the numbers up there. You should have one that's 905 and one that's 341. And you're welcome to taste them and get a feeling of where we are on the scale. So if we are thinking of all the coffees that exist, we will have like a huge scale. And you should think of these coffees, or this scale, as just like a small part of all the coffees that exist. But for us to be able to see something in the results, we really need you to use the scale. And it's very, very common for the first time you do this that people are so afraid of putting 14, 15, or even 1 and 2. So just tell you, don't be afraid, just like really go out there and just fill it out. What do you think about the coffees? Can you use these descriptors for them? So which of the two do you find most acidic? 3 for 1? Does everyone agree? Cool. That's great. That's a really good start. What about this baked flavor? Do you find it in any of them? And in which one, if you do? The roasted bread? 905? Yeah? All right. That's really good.
905.
Then just really taste them and remember them and have them in the back of your mind, and in your mind when we go into the next room for the copying. And when we go into the next room, you will each have an individual number, because this is of course completely secret. So in that way, I will not even know who you are. You will be the only person who knows who you are. And therefore, you should check the bottom of number 905. There should be a number. Yeah, you all have a number? Great. Because then when we go into the other room, there will be 6 tables. And I would like you to go to the table that matches the number that you got. Yeah? So you will be 10 persons in each table, and I will ask you to be 5 persons on each side. And what you will find is that you will find 10 coffees with 3-digit numbers. And then I would like you to use your phones to consider evaluation. So I will not have to sit with 60 papers afterwards. So we are collecting it online. And what you will have to do is to go to tinyurl.com/NordicRoasters16. And I will show you this again later so that you can see it. But when you log onto that page, you will see this one as the first. And here you start by writing your number that you just got. And then you will see the form like this. So the number up here is the first coffee that you need to find on the table. So you find that coffee, you fill out the form, and then you're done with that. So don't go back. Just stand in front of that coffee, just focus, have these tools that you just tasted in your mind, and evaluate it on these descriptors. Yeah? And then you just go to the next one and do exactly the same. And there are 10 of them. And then, very importantly, press send in the end. I have some that forgot, and then we are not collecting any data if you don't press send, so please do so. Yes, and here you have the website one more time. Yes, but that was actually everything that I have to tell you in here now. So the next thing is that we go and we do the coffee tasting, and then it's just really exciting to see the results afterwards. I will spend the afternoon looking at it, and then Morten will come tomorrow and tell you all about it. And because it's a research project, I cannot tell you anything about what you're tasting, so that's why I haven't done so. So it's just, you have to wait for tomorrow. But I think that we should actually give them 5 minutes, so we're not disturbing them in their brewing and the whole setup. So if you have any questions or something you would like to discuss before we go in there, we can do it. Yeah?
So the samples that I got would be
Oh. Usually we do, definitely. I think they were a bit busy in there, so yeah, there can be temperature differences. Hopefully the coffee you're going to get now should be quite cold. And I actually thought that these were quite cold too, but maybe they're not. They're not so cold. I thought that you would just have them served cold, actually. What was to come, yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. It's just I was just wondering.
No, usually we have complete control of temperature, yeah. That's very important. I actually wrote my master thesis about how temperature influences the flavor of a cup of coffee. So yeah, that's something that we are really...
So what did you find out there?
Oh, good question. I found out that we really see a change from... I tested 6 different temperatures, going from 31 to 62 degrees. And we found out that something really happens from 44 and up. We saw that the release of pyrosins and furans, that are aromas known to have contain roasted flavors, they really increased at above 44 degrees. So it means that if you have 2 coffees that are very similar, it's very difficult to detect the difference at high temperatures because you have all these roasted aromas that kind of overwhelm. So if you go below 44, these will have been released, and it will be much more clear, these more fruity or more subtle aromas. So yeah, usually if we have a central variation, we go from 48 degrees, we usually start actually, because it's easier for us. Yeah. So, but again, it's also interesting how the coffee can taste differently at different temperatures. So a recommendation could also be to taste it both at low and high and notice how is it different. But if you want to compare 2 coffees, it's really important that you compare them at the same temperature. So yeah, really good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I just have to be.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to be clear, the 2 coffees, the difference in acidity wasn't really that big. But to be clear, one of them is a reference for like 15.
Yes. Yes.
And the other one, not at all.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so even though the difference might seem small, I want you to make it a little bigger on the scale. Yeah. Thank you for asking. Yeah. Do you think we are ready to get in?
Can you just repeat the number on the cup?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Remember that the number on the bottom of your cup is the number where you have to go to the table, so we don't have any confusions.
So if you don't want to finish your coffee, you take a picture.
Yeah,
of the
remember
number,
that number.
and
Very
you make a
important.
note of it. So this is going to be your table for the rest of the event. This is really important.
Yes.
Coming over.
Can you show the tables again?
Oh yes, of course.
Thank you.
To be honest, I'm not sure that they put the numbers in this order. So just remember the number of the table. You're going to get. I don't know how they put it up in there.
And it's up to 8.
Sorry.
It's up to 8.
No, 6 tables.
You have
With
8.
number 8, well then you're on table number 1.
Oh, sorry, I can't.
1 to 10 is table number 1. You had 31 to 40 and 4, etc.
Thank you. Super. All right, then let's go in there and be a sensory panel.
One more question.
Oh, sorry.
I've got a question about when I look in the sensory lexicon document and it's telling me like raspberry jelly crystals, if I stick them on my tongue, are only like intensity 8 or something out of 15, if I've understood it correctly. But that seems like, compared with these coffees, I would have thought raspberry jelly crystals would be a 15. How can I
Yes,
get more raspberry?
that's also one of the questions I have for the lexicon. For example, I noticed that they have blueberry and they have blueberry cans and they put that on 6 on the scale. And I'm like, if you have a cup of coffee, it will never be tasting more like blueberry than real blueberries. So yeah, I would, usually the way we do it is that we take real blueberries and we put it on the other, as out of the scale, and then we compare the coffees. I think that they put it on, I asked them why they did it, and they said that it's, they put it on the blueberry scale. So this blueberries would be 6 on the blueberry scale. But yeah, I'm not sure. You have to go to the SCA and ask. But yeah, good question.
All right, I think we're ready to go. Over to
Yeah,
calibrate.
the time is good. And they should be ready as well.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Ida.
Thank you.
Thank you.